the opportunity to work and learn so they can do it themselves later. And even if they employ locals, they usually put them in the lowest part of the pinnacle. They get the contracts, do it themselves, and even import their own people from China to do it when there are countless African citizens unemployed and hoping to get a day's job to feed. What the hell do we need Chinese or French or European builders for, when we have the brain and manpower and can start developing the technological part of it, if not for our useless and senseless good-for-nothing leaders who have totally been chronically affected by the destruction of belief in ourselves, the lack of confidence that we cannot do anything good ourselves. Therefore, we prefer to trust white people and foreigners to do things for us, believing they have the magic touch and expertise to do things like abracadabra, for example. These days in Africa, all basic necessity has been privatized, from water to electricity and even to the air we breathe. Water is a basic human right. For crying out loud, it is time for us to say enough is enough. For we are going through another scramble and petition of Africa without even realizing it. And this time, the impact is going to be very disastrous. And yet, my people are not well equipped should this happen. The other day, I read online how China is suggesting Mandarin be taught in South African schools from kindergarten level. And also how Kenya government has signed for Chinese to become a major language in Kenya and to be taught from primary schools. Seriously? Are you guys for real? Who is going to be teaching it in our schools? Are you going to employ local teachers, or you're going to import teachers from Chinese, the indigenes who can speak the Chinese language fluently and properly, into our schools? Come on now, Africa. Please wake the fuck up. Wake up from your foolishness and stupidity, for our continent have already been seriously wounded and disabled enough. The last time I checked, we were all given Bibles and asked to close our eyes and pray. And by the time we opened our eyes, our lands, natural resources, children, and all were gone. Some were sold into slavery, destroyed by apartheid, colonized and still suffering from the negative legacies to date, and so on and so forth. You see, I try my best to be polite, but right now, I just don't give a damn shit. Let's be honest. It is quite exhausting to be politically correct with all this nonsense and injustices going on in Africa and not say it the way it is. So it is time to call things by their names. Oh yes, we were forced to speak English, French, Spanish, Dutch, Portuguese, and many more. And as if that is not enough, now we have to learn to speak Chinese in this modern age and century when most of our children cannot even speak their local dialect. Do Africans even know the history of China and how the West could not infiltrate them, either through Christianity, Catholic images, or their language? Which led first to the Opium War and other subsequent wars. As a matter of fact, merchants who traded with China at that point in time in history were not allowed to speak Chinese anywhere in China's shores. And the Chinese locals were vehemently prohibited from speaking English or foreign languages at all. Behold, here we are again, facing another possibly colonizer, and we fold our hands while our historically and intelligently malfunctioning leaders are selling us out for peanuts as they all take decisions that benefit them and their families, and not for the general well-being of our country or continent. How many Chinese worldwide speaks other languages without first learning their native tongue? How many other languages are spoken in China's schools? So, with all the thousands of languages spoken in sub-Saharan Africa, and round African as a whole, none is good enough to choose from. Huh? You see how our leaders relegate us to nothing in every aspect of life, and yet we keep demanding for respect from others when we are not self-respecting? In everything we do, we self-depict the dichotomy assigned to a black person as being inferior to other races. We just keep proving inferiority complex as we have been described to be. Don't get me wrong now. There is absolutely nothing bad to be bilingual, okay? There's absolutely nothing bad to speak another language. But it has to be a choice and not enforcement or as a clause for doing business or justifying the HEP paradigm. Africa, it is time to commend self-respect, and the world will gradually change their notions and perception of us and how they treat African people worldwide. The China you are all calling for help today ain't their way. They got sick and tired of Western intervention and abuse and decided to do something about it. The once slant-eye people by the West are now equally a world power, manufacturing high techs, cars and all. They sponsor their citizens to every nook and cranny of the West to learn and copy any idea they see, and then they modify it as theirs. They self-developed by not calling outsiders to come build China for them. Instead, when countries like America create the product, the Chinese will break them down bit by bit, copy the idea, and then make it cheaper and better and even more affordable to everyone, to everybody So now, even America and the entire West now buy their own product from the Chinese and Japanese at a cheaper rate. Even our African products like our Ankara, laces, beads and all are made in China and then exported to Africa for us to buy at a high price. With the latest developmental position of China in the world fair, white people and everybody can no longer prove superiority over Chinese anymore. They now command respect and are even being feared by the technological potential that they possess to maneuver or copy anything they find or set their eyes on. Their desperation for growth is beyond measures, and today they compete in world market in every nook and cranny of the earth. My people, the only way for an oppressor to oppress, there must be an oppressed person participating in his or her own oppression. So please say enough is enough and start self-creating possibilities. We do have the resources and manpower, the right agency to self-develop without outside help. What we need is the platform and space to actualize them if our leaders wake the fuck up. Nevertheless, we are not going to fold our hands and continue waiting for our leaders who only come into politics to steal and enrich themselves, while poverty and starvation still engulf our cities and villages. Even up to the 20th generations of future family members of our leaders cannot finish the money and wealth stolen from us. Africa have become a place where children cannot afford to eat a meal, not to talk of eating 3 square meals a day, amidst of plenty. And where women die at something as natural as childbirth for little things that could have been avoided or solved. But due to lack of resources, women die while giving birth. Children are abused and tortured. Where there is a total lack of basic needs and infrastructural development like schools, hospitals, roads, electricity, clean drinking water, and many more. Yet, these leaders are being hallowed and celebrated for thievery. Like Nigeria, for a typical example, is the bed hub for political thievery